everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today, and before we get started, be sure that you're a member over on my exclusive Facebook group. It's a great place to get to know other crafters, hang out, ask your questions, and show off your crafts. Today's video, we are going to talk all about embossing with your Cricut. This is something that I was afraid to try and I really don't know why, but it just intimidated me, and I have a feeling that it intimidates some of you as well. So I'm going to show you how easy it really is because it was super simple once I did it. Now you're going to want a couple supplies. You're going to need the debossing tip from Cricut, which is number 21, and the quick swap housing. You're also going to want to have a brayer and a pin pen or some sort of weeding tool. And then I also like to have a little red scraper because you're going to need to clean off your mat when you're done. You're also going to want a thicker, heavier cardstock and then a thinner cardstock for this project. And I'll show you some examples really quick. Hopefully you can see them, but this is the one project that we're going to do, and I don't know how well you can see this, but then I also tested it just to make sure it was going to work, and I made these little snowflakes, and hopefully you can see those as well. I know they're kind of hard to see with the bright lights, but this is a really fun and easy project. Now this is one that needs to be done with your Maker or your Maker 3, but if you're interested in knowing how to do it with your Cricut Explore or your Explore Air 2 or your Explore 3, let me know in those comments down below. That way I know if you really want to see that video, and I will show you how easy it is to do it with that machine as well. Now let's go ahead and get started. We're going to just use this Stay Salty design. It's a really easy one. When you first start learning how to emboss, you'll want to use something that's kind of plain. That way you can get used to working with it. Now, the first thing that we are going to do is kind of size this to however big we want it to be. And I'm just going to make a little like placard card. So I'm not going to do anything too fancy or too crazy. So honestly, I think because I want this to be big so that you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to go about 7 inches wide. That's a pretty good size. Now, what I need to do with my design is actually create an offset for this so that the design itself will be puffier. I've seen a lot of videos that talk about how to do this, and none of them really tell you exactly why you need 2 layers. By doing 2 layers, it offers the paper somewhere to stick up and the debossing tool somewhere to press through to make this nice and thick. So what I want to do is I need to add an offset to this, and that is going to actually be what our debossing tool goes around and traces. Now for this, you don't want a big offset at all. You want it to be really, really close to your design. So for this, I tend to do anything between like a 0.02, 0.04, somewhere within there, and sometimes it just depends on the design and how big you need it to be or want it to be. So I'm going to click 0.02 and just sort of see what that gives us. Now keep in mind, Design Space sometimes is a little weird with its offset, but I'm going to click apply really quick and just see if that looks like it's going to work. That actually looks perfect, so we're going to go with that. Now like I said, you want to keep it really, really small. That way it sits really, really close to those letters. Now what I want to do is take this offset here, and I want to change my operation to deboss. Now again, keep in mind, this is only for the Maker or the Maker 3, but if you want to see how to do this with your Explore, let me know in those comments down below, and I can show you how to do it with an Explore machine as well. Now before I do anything else, I do want to make sure that these are going to stay lined up on my mat. They won't be lined up perfectly right now because the offset is just slightly larger than the actual design. So when you go to place this on the mat, it's going to move it over just a micro inch, and that's going to mess everything up. So what you'll want to do is add a little shape, and if you've ever heard of the registration boxes, this is a similar idea. Now for this, I tend to just use a little circle. You can really kind of use whatever shape you want, but I find a circle works really well. You want to make it pretty tiny. I try to make it as small as I can, but I also don't want it so small that we can't see it anymore. I want to duplicate the circle, so I'll have 2. grab both of the circles, just draw a box around them. You want to align them and you want to center them. And then I want to move it closer to my design. Now I'm going to kind of put it so that I could cut it off if I want to, but honestly, nobody's really going to notice this teeny tiny circle. So this little itty bitty circle right here. Now what you want to do is you want to take one of your circles and you want to grab it and you want to attach it to your Salty Beach basic cut. So click attach. Then you want to take this circle here and you want to attach it to your deboss. So you just click attach. And what that basically does is it's going to hold everything in place so that nothing is going to move around. Now you can move this circle a little further out if you need to, or further this way just so it's not on your design if you don't want it to be, but I keep it a little closer just because I don't totally care. But let's say that you do. All you have to do is when you place the circles, you can just put them somewhere else on the design. So if you grab the circles and let's say we want to make sure that they're not going to be, we're going to like maybe cut our design out a little bit more, you can just put it over here and then it won't be on your design. But it's really up to you and how you want it to be. It's fine, however works best for you. I personally don't care, so I'm just gonna go ahead and attach them again. And you just wanna attach one circle to one design and one circle to the offset, and you're good to go. Once I've done that, I'm always gonna save my design, so I'm just gonna save it. And then all I have to do is click make, and you're gonna see we have two separate mats. You're gonna see here, this is our debossing, and you see right here, it says that it's deboss and basic cut because of the little circle. It's gonna cut around the circle. It won't actually. And then, because you deboss first, and we just won't do the basic cut. And then this one here is your basic cut. This is actually the first step that you need to do. Design Space will not allow us to cut first. It only wants us to deboss first. So I'm gonna show you how to kind of work around this a little bit. And it's honestly really, really easy. All you simply have to do is make sure that you have the basic cut mat selected first. And then after we've cut it, it will automatically go back to mat 1 to do the embossing. So like I said, super easy. First thing we're going to start with is our heavier cardstock. So this is about the heaviest I have. It's about 120 pound cardstock. And I'm going to load this on to my mat. Now I'm using a light grip mat. This one doesn't have a ton of stick left to it, but it's actually really good for this. So I'm going to use a brayer to hold it down. You've seen me use the brayer before. I will link everything that we're using in this video down below. That way you can find it really easy. But all I'm doing is just running the brayer over the design so that we can get it cut on our machine. So like I said, we're starting with the cut option first. So we have our fine point blade in. We're gonna let this cut, and then I'm gonna show you what we do in order to get the debossing, or embossing in this case, to work. Now once it's done, we unload the mat. This is super important. And what we want to do is take off the background of the paper, so the larger piece of paper. Now with this, you want to be really careful. So I'm going to not actually turn my mat over like I normally do, except just to start it. And then what I do is I very carefully lift the paper off of the backing. Now keep in mind, most of the time with this, you're not going to save the paper that you use off the back. So if it gets bent or ruined in any way, it's totally fine. Then what you want to make sure that you do is any of the centers, like these little dots in our starfish, we want to take those off, and we want to get any of our centers of our letters out. So you want to get like the center of your A, and you want to get the centers of your Y's out. And then we can put our next piece of cardstock on top. But give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and finish this little starfish real quick, and then we will put the next piece down. Now, before we put our cardstock down, I do want to show you the debossing tool, which is this little guy. This tool has a 21 on the side, and then this little like plasticky white ball on the bottom. And then it's got the gold gear because this is a quick swap housing. So when you want to change out the tip, you can just pull it apart by pressing on the little button at the top. But to load it into the machine, you simply open up clamp A and take out the fine point blade. I'm going to put that over to the side, and then you want to line up the gold gear, put your tool in and close it. Now we want to put our next piece of cardstock on, and I found this really pretty shimmer that I thought would be so fun. So what I do, let me move the machine a little bit so you can see better what I'm doing. I take my cardstock, and you want to put it on to your mat just like so. And I do have a bigger piece of cardstock for this just because that was the type that I had in this silver. Once that's down, again, you want to bring out your brayer, and I just want to make sure that I bray all the way over this to make sure that it's going to hold this down really well while it is debossing. You want to use a relatively sticky mat for this so that nothing moves around, but you can see that my cardstock didn't stick very well. That may happen, and if you can't get it to stick well because there's not a lot of room for it to stick, you can use a little bit of painter's tape or some masking tape, but I'm going to see if I can just get it to stick down with my brayer, which it should be fine. Now, once I've got everything ready to go, I just load in my cardstock, and I'll move the machine again for you so that you can get a good look at what it's doing. And now it's going to deboss around the design. Once it's done with the embossing, we're going to go ahead and unload, and you're going to be able to see right off the bat how cool that looks. Now I'm going to get you a better view because the shiny metallic paper from this angle is hard to see, but we can just go ahead and remove all of the stuff from the mat. So you can take your big piece of cardstock and take that off of the mat. Just simply do that by flipping it over. And then you've got all these pieces on your mat, which you can either just pick off with your hand if you prefer, or you can grab your pin pen or your weeding tool or whatever and just take these off. You're probably not going to use them again. So when you're done doing your debossing, you can go ahead and just remove. Now the cool thing is if you want to do multiples, just keep this on and just keep loading in paper to do the different embossing designs that you want to do if you want to do multiple of the same design. Now I'm going to go ahead and get you guys a better view of the embossed design. Here is the embossed design. You can see it's gorgeous on this like shiny paper. I feel like the camera just never really does it justice with how cool it looks in person, but it really looks pretty awesome. Look at how like detailed it looks. This was actually a lot easier than I think a lot of people think. And I'm going to see if I can show you. See, it kind of hides it when I turn it, but you can really see it's pretty thick and puffy, and you get that by using the thicker paper underneath. So you want to use a really heavy cardstock for the base of the design, and then for the top you can kind of use whatever. This is like, I would say, like an 80-pound cardstock, and it's really, really nice. Now if you guys have any questions about this, please let me know in those comments down below, or if you'd like to see some ways that you can use embossing with different designs and projects, please let me know in those comments down below. I always want to make tutorials that you're looking for, so if it's not something you're interested in, I don't want to waste my time. I'd rather get you things that you really want to see. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.